At Desawe Kanda here in Accra and across our numerous affiliates in the country. In Tamale, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM, and while we're live on W 93.5 and all around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Coming up this morning, one feared dead and 3 others injured as a health facility collapsed at Kaswa Manfrom near in Tuesday afternoon.
The owner of the facility, who was brought out from the building, has been pronounced dead. But the remaining 4 are currently in a critical condition and they have been rushed to the hospital.
Well, we'll take you there to the scene where our reporters have been engaging residents. Also, the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Rahman, cautions minority of a boycott decision, says it is a dangerous decision.
A party that has a chance of forming the next government has to be careful in terms of the actions that it takes. A strategy that would take all of them away from the house might also be one that might be a little bit dangerous.
Plus, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, admits the domestic debt exchange program was a very difficult experience, but the country needed to bite the bullet.
We want to be here till our money speak. We want to drive home our demand for our money.
Well, we have the details of these and many more coming up shortly. Do stay. Many thanks for your time. Let's begin from here. And I am Emmanuel Samani. Now, one person is feared dead and 3 others injured after another building collapsed at Kaswa Manfro near Accra Tuesday afternoon. At the time, the collapse of the property said to be a health facility. Some staff of the facility, including the proprietor, were busily at work. My colleague Godwin Asidaba was at the scene and reports.
An unfortunate incident happened here on Tuesday, July 4, after a heavy downpour which lasted for about 2 hours. According to eyewitnesses, after the rain, the owner of this health facility was seated under the story building structure together with 4 other people. They heard a sudden noise and they rushed here, and when they got here, this particular building had collapsed and all the 5 people who were seated beneath it was struggling under the debris. It took the team from the Ghana National Fire Service and the Ghana Police Service hours to get here and also hours to rescue them. Unfortunately, the owner of the facility, who was stuck at this portion of the building, was brought out and unfortunately pronounced dead on the spot. But the remaining 4 people who were on the other side of the building were brought out. Unfortunately, they are alive and they have been rushed into the hospital. Residents here are shocked about the incident that happened, and they are hoping that those who have been rushed into the hospital will come out stronger.
We started digging through the debris to find them as soon as possible.
Moving away now, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has admitted the domestic debt exchange was a difficult experience, but the country needed to bite the bullet in order to ensure a speedy economic recovery. He noted with the approval of the IMF deal and the disbursement of the first tranche, the economy has started stabilizing. He was speaking at events to observe America's Independence Day in Accra.
We need to acknowledge that this is just an unprecedented period in global affairs with regards to the economy and all the incidents that we have seen. But be that as it may, July 1st last year was a very different period than July 1st this year. And the media will recognize that it's been quite a dramatic change in where we are. During that period in which we did a double take to go to the fund, we got the SLA in record time. We got the fund approval in record time. We got 3 times our quota, which is unprecedented, 3 billion. We also were able to front load it so that we may get 1.2 billion this year, which is good. And then within 3 days of the approval also, it was disbursed for us. And the domestic debt exchange program was very difficult for us as a country, but I think, you know, the need to do it is being proven. So you can see some stability, and we are grateful for that.
Well, you heard the finance minister, and the background you heard there was during America's Independence Day celebration last night. Now, moving on, the executive director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman, says the decision of the minority to boycott government's business over the Jachi Kwesen trial would not augur well for Ghana's democratic progress. Government business may face difficulties due to the minority MP's decision to avoid parliamentary duties in support of 3 NDC MPs facing criminal charges. The minority leader, Dr. Kaisel Atuforsen, made this known in Parliament after swearing in of James Kwesen as Member of Parliament for Asin North. But Dr. Draman says the decision by the minority is a bad precedent.
There is something we call a responsible opposition, and an opposition that is waiting in the wings to form a government. In some countries, we have some parties that are permanently in opposition. They don't have any chance of forming a government. Those can act maybe in a way that might be construed as irresponsible. But a party that has a chance of forming the next government has to be careful in terms of the actions that it takes. They have to show up in the House. They have to participate in the business of the House. They have to show us alternatives. Otherwise, in the end, the ruling party might be blamed for maybe some of the challenges that our country would face.
Well, Dr. Draman has called for an amicable resolution of the matter through leadership of the parliament.
There is something we call a responsible opposition, and an opposition that is waiting in the wings to form a government. In some countries, we have some parties that are permanently in opposition. They don't have any chance of forming a government. Those can act maybe in a way that might be construed as irresponsible. But a party that has a chance of forming the next government has to be careful in terms of the actions that it takes. They have to show up in the House. They have to participate in the business of the House. They have to show us alternatives. Otherwise, in the end, the ruling party might be blamed for maybe some of the challenges that our country would face.
Meanwhile, the newly sworn in MP has pledged to work assiduously with his colleagues in the minority caucus to represent his constituents and confront the challenges in the country. In what is a thank you message, he expresses appreciation to the NDC and his supporters. Now, aggrieved Free Senior High School food suppliers have besieged the premises of the National Food Buffer Stock Company here in Accra to demand payment of arrears owed them by government. The suppliers of food to schools under government's free SHS program threaten to sleep at the Buffer Stock Company until they hear a tangible response from government. They have traveled across the length and breadth of the country to demand payments for over 270 million cedis spanning 2 years. Here is a spokesperson of the group.
We want to be here till our money is paid. We want to drive home our demand for our money, which has been with Buffer Stock for over 2 years now. We've done everything possible to get our money paid, but we've not been able to get results. But we intend to pick it this morning. We want to be here, not only this morning. We'll be here tomorrow morning. We'll be here next tomorrow until our money is paid. Government has failed on its promises to give us the money. When we intended to pick it the last time, there were some few interventions of which we complied, but nothing has come out up to now, and that's how we're picketing. And we want to be here till they get us our money.
Well, Parliament Education Committee says the Finance Minister will answer questions on the matter. Lucho Kotoye is a member of the committee.
Where they cut the allocation to get funds to about a quarter of what was due to them. So we had engagement with him. He promised that in the new in this year's mid-year budget review, he might do something about it. So maybe we'll wait. If nothing is done, when he comes for the mid-year budget review, we'll put some questions to him based on the payment to the buffer stock.
Let's move on now. An executive director at Song Taba, Hajia Lamtu Adam, has expressed concerns over the denial of compensation for family of 90-year-old Akua Dente by the Tamale High Court. She believes committing the accused to custodial sentence alone is not enough to pay for the trauma the family went through for the past 3 years. The Tamale High Court convicted two women, Hajia Serena Mohammed and Latifa Bomaye, for manslaughter and sentenced them to various prison terms for their roles in lynching of 90-year-old Akua Denta's Kafaba in the Savannah region on suspicion of being a witch. Speaking exclusively to TV3, Hajia Lamtu Adam said the anti-witchcraft bill before Parliament should consider compensation for survivors of witchcraft accusations and their families.
We are, however, not also very enthused about the fact that not much is being said to the family who has lost a mother, who has lost money, who has lost time. All these 3 years, they've been to and fro from Salaga, to the High Court. This at an opportune time when there's discussion ongoing about criminalizing witchcraft accusation, and I think this is the perfect time that we can give this the attention that it needs.
And finally, before we go, the National Labour Commission has directed organised labour and management of the Sunon Asoglim to resolve its impasse within 24 hours. However, organised labour insists it will go ahead with its intended strike on July 10 if the 3 dismissed workers are not reinstated. There's more in this report.
The National Labour Commission for the second time asked Sunon Asogli and organised labour to resolve the impasse. Both parties expressed commitment to get the issues resolved.
The matter is before the commission, and the commission has given directives, so we'll leave it at that, please.
What did the commission say?
Respectfully, that's I won't say. No, respectfully, I won't say anything. I beg you. It's against the ethics of my profession to talk about matters before an adjudicating authority. So please, I believe everything will be resolved.
By Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, who also doubles as a spokesperson for organised labour, Dr. Yauban said organised labour will go ahead with its intended strike if management of Sunon Asogli fails to reinstate the dismissed workers.
So have you suspended the strike then?
Oh, not yet. The strike is still there. It stands. On the 10th of July, if our demand is not met, we will strike. But what I'm saying is that the engagement should lead to an amicable solution. And once that amicable solution is reached, then there's no need for strike.
And on that note, we wrap up the news here on 3FM 92.7. You can find more news when you do log on to our website. It's 3news.com. I am Emmanuel Samani. Take care of yourself and be well. Sunrise continues right here on 3FM. Bye-bye.